Today, I'm going to show you a science fiction action film titled Freaks, You're One of Us. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. A lethal decibel of quietness thunders as little Wendy sits alone and terrified at a dark room inside their institute. The foundation was strangely shockingly abandoned. Right outside the school, a multitude of cops sneaks around, reviewing a bloody and twisted table that seemed to have emerged from the messed up wall of the second floor of a multi-story school building. A cop reassures a lady who seems to be Wendy's mom, while a group of paramedics helps an intensely harmed man with a rescue bed. Another lady strolls down the scene and thoughtfully eyes the circumstance of the structure. She discreetly enters and figures the harm to the messed up room. She keeps looking for Wendy until she winds up in the recreation hall. She arrives at a dull room, lifts the entryway, and then sees a terrified and confounded small figure. She strolls nearer and mutters words reassuringly. A long time later, a grown lady awakens in an unclear dream. She takes a white pill from her bedside table and drinks it. As Wendy goes through her day at work, she strictly achieves a thorough job. After all of the tasks, Wendy strolls outside, bringing a sack of trash in every one of her two hands. She spots a vehicle left in the PWD parking space and graciously reminds the driver to move the car to another parking space, yet the lady and the children just disregarded her reminder. She proceeds towards the trash receptacle behind the building and meets a man searching for food. She generously hands the scrounger a piece of meat. The man reveals to her that Wendy is one of them. Befuddled and irritated, Wendy scowled. The man leaves her with his bike brimming with trash while Wendy shakes her head in disbelief. On her way home, she crosses a bridge, but her arms and bag fly behind her to hit a recognizable figure. It is the scrounger. The man gets knocked to the ground. Wendy feels sorry, but she reasons that he terrified her. The man presents himself as Marek and digs questions about the pill that she has been taking. Wendy denied it, yet the man is annoyingly persistent, saying he realized that the medications confine their impulses. Wendy strolls past Marek, yet he bars her and persuades her to quit taking them. Still suspicious, Wendy challenges the man yet is stunned to see him moving beyond the railing. She fakes her doubt to hold him off her test. However, he courageously hops off the extension and terrains out and about underneath the bridge. Wendy hangs over the scaffold and wheezes unbelievingly as a gigantic truck hits the scrounger. She snatches her telephone and reports the incident to a crisis hotline. The next day, Wendy goes on a session with Dr. Stern. Wendy portrayed that a man in his dream thinks he is adequately powerful to fly and bounce off a tall construction, and the therapist can't help but be intrigued. She attempts to work Wendy out to describe more, yet Wendy decides not to uncover. The specialist, at that point, snatches a paper telling her that she needs to endorse more dosage of her pills. Soon after that, Wendy returns to work. She again goes outside to discard their food waste. However, she is shocked when she sees the scrounger, complete in appendages and unconventionally alive after the mishap. The man leaves a piece of paper to Wendy before the supervisor can get a can and tosses it to the man. Her shift closes, and as she strolls herself back home, she passes by a dim gym where she sees her child sitting on a seat without a couple of shoes. Her child was joined by 3 different children who tormented him for losing in a game. She threatened them to give back his shoe, yet one of the children dared her to hurt them. Feeling frail and vulnerable, Wendy takes her child home with her while never saying a thing. Wendy takes her child to rest, actually feeling sorry for him. She returns to her room, gets her pills, and mulls over on drinking it. She takes 4 of the medications and drains them on the latrine. Strolling alone in the night used to cause Wendy to feel frightened. Yet, when she steps past the very gathering of boozers that evening, she feels bold and powerful that she stops walking after catcalling her. He takes her to the ground and attempts to hit Wendy. But Wendy turns him over, so she sits atop him. His friends gravitate toward Wendy. However, a solitary strike of Wendy's arm throws them. The one who harassed her runs with all his speed to keep away from the infuriated lady. Dr. Stern reminds Wendy about a missed meeting and cautions her of the potential outcomes if she deliberately stops her prescription. Soon after, Wendy goes into the water park where Marek lived. She meanders around the massive vacant structure and discovers Marek's living area. She asks Marek regarding her strange strength. Marek uncovers that it was her secret force, and individuals like Dr. Stern saved it from her for a fundamentally prolonged period. Wendy leaves him after the revelation. The following day, Wendy attempts to play football with her child, however winds up kicking the ball excessively far in the sky. She reveals to her child to stay quiet about it. That evening, Wendy gets into Dr. Stern's facility. As she reviews the patient's records, she finds that her colleague, Elmar, is getting treatment from Dr. Stern. After diving into her records, Wendy courses to Elmar's home. She revealed to him that Dr. Stern was utilizing their prescription to smother their extraordinary capacities. She requests that Elmar should quit taking the pills and leaves Elmar's gallery. Changes begin taking over Wendy. Wendy folds in broad daylight every one of the 3 bikes owned by the domineering jerks who tormented her son. During one of her shifts, Wendy pushes the car parked in the PWD spot sideways. She also has no sweats lifting barrels of beer at all. Before heading home, Elmar reveals that he is Electro Man while holding out and illuminating a light bulb. The two go out to drink but pass by an ATM. Wendy breaks the machine and takes out all the cash inside it. The two share a similar issue about their loved ones who can't deal with their character. Before the night finished, Elmar endeavors to kiss Wendy yet flops wretchedly. The two head to dance the night together. There, Wendy sees a man from a reasonable distance bully a man with all his company. Wendy draws them into the club's bathroom and thumps every one of them. Wendy returns home to her dozing husband and gives him all the cash she took from the ATM. The couple makes love as the late evening ends. Meanwhile, 2 policemen interrogate a man with a bandaged face. The man claims that a woman single-handedly beat him and 5 of his other friends. The policemen start laughing skeptically, but a police officer signals them to go out. Dr. Stern replaces the 2 policemen in the interrogation room and asks more questions to the beaten man. That night, Wendy skips her shift and goes to Marek's dwelling to introduce Elmar. Elmar shows the 2 of them how he can light up the abandoned water park with his bare hands. Then, Wendy explains to Elmar that Marek is an invincible man. Marek lays out his plan to congregate in the abandoned water park and behave normally to avoid getting caught, but Elmar questions why he wanted to hide their powers. Marek reveals that he used to be caged in a pseudo-asylum where the government keeps people with special abilities like them. He tells them that the 3 of them need to hide until the world is ready to accept such superiority, but Elmar and Wendy dispute, saying the 3 should set the people in the asylum free. Instead of working the next night, Elmar, Marek, and Wendy speed off to the asylum. Wendy tricks the guard into letting her in. Elmar turns off the cameras in the building to blind the system, but after leaving, the guard calls on the other guards to prevent the breach. Before they can breach into the rooms, the guards chase them outwards to the asylum. The rain pours hard, and when the guards entrap the 3, Elmar easily electrocutes them. The guards fall to the ground. Wendy and Marek are upset with what happened. Before they can leave the place, the 2 confront Elmar that the guards could have died, but he cares less. Marek tells Elmar that what he did was why people like them are imprisoned in the asylum. Still, Elmar believes that they should let people know that they exist. Elmar and Marek try to push each other, but Wendy mediates. The 3 head separate ways home. When Wendy gets home, her husband confronts her about skipping work and accuses her of having an extramarital affair. She decides to keep her real powers from him. Her husband curses at her before the night ends. Elmar starts getting rogue and uncontrollable. He exposes Marek's location to Dr. Stern. Her team of operatives throws a full-blown arrest at Marek and takes him to the asylum. At Wendy's backyard party, where he threatens to electrify Wendy's son, who was swimming in the pool. He mischievously tells Wendy that Dr. Stern's team has captured Marek. Feeling confused and betrayed, Wendy asks him to leave her house at once. When he leaves, Wendy and her husband get into a heated conversation where she ends up throwing him and breaking his right arm after he tips her off to Dr. Stern. Meanwhile, Elmar becomes mad and electrocutes his father in their house. Wendy sees what he did to her father, so he electrocutes her too. Wendy wakes up restrained and weak in a bland room with Dr. Stern. She reminds her about the incident years ago where she injured her school's counselor and scared her mother. She leaves Wendy locked up in the asylum, where she grows weaker due to medications. One night, Elmar visits her in the isolation room and turns off the electricity in the asylum in the city. Wendy and the rest of the isolated patients are able to get outside their rooms. The security team can no longer control them anymore, but Dr. Stern sees Wendy and warns her to go back to her room at once. She resists, but Dr. Stern orders her men to catch her. Marek comes to her defense, but Dr. Stern shoots him. Wendy knocks off Dr. Stern in return. Marek is no longer invincible as he was also forced to take the medications in the asylum and ends up dying in Wendy's arms. Wendy storms off to her house and comes to rescue her husband and son. She finds that Elmar entrapped her husband and son with electrical wires. She tries to catch him in a duel but ends up getting slightly electrocuted too. She doesn't seem to match Elmar's electricity, but her husband throws her a pair of insulator gloves. She pushes Elmar twice until he flies off the swimming pool and electrifies himself. Her husband and child decide to let her go as Dr. Stern will come after her. Dr. Stern and her team reach her husband and child in the backyard with Elmar's electrified body, Elmar is sent unconscious to the asylum, where most of the patients have been sedated. Wendy sadly watches her family from afar but starts on a new journey of gathering her kind for a greater purpose. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.